constantly doing it. Either that, or if you ever been to a fair and you're in that fun circle and that like thing is turning, right? And you're trying to go all the way around and you fall. That's exactly how I think about it with smiling down. Like you're doing good, you're climbing the well, and then
Yeah.
you fall. And what does that lead to? If you dial long enough, you won't be able to smile. It's true,
Yeah.
right? I love that Closers Click helps you narrow down who exactly you're going to go after in your target market. I didn't grow my $3 million agency by smiling and dialing.
My name is Elle Dinning. I am a co-founder of Jumpstart Go, along with David Dinning and Renee Cabrera. I also coach and train inside of our client programs, the Closers Click and Legends. And I also head up our marketing. So I'm super excited to talk about specifically organic social media, because last month in Jumpstart Go, we actually cut our marketing budget in half. We took our ad spend down from about 15,000 a month down to 6,500 a month. And we actually, our profit went way up, which was awesome. But then we also had one of our best cash months that we've had in almost, I think Trista, I think it was like 8 months or something like that.
It was
That
a while.
Yeah. So we're super excited to talk about what we did on the organic marketing side. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Trista to intro herself, because she's fantastic and awesome.
Awesome. I'm super excited. Like Elle said, my name is Trista. I have been with Jumpstart Go for over a year now. So super, super exciting. One of the best moves I could have made, honestly, in my career. But I've been in insurance now for 13 years. And so super exciting. I started at Allstate, guys, without a license, just doing answering phones and doing some of the marketing, all that good stuff. And eventually realized that I didn't want something called a license to hold me back from where I really could see myself in a career in insurance. And so went and got my license and quickly became one of the top producers in Allstate within the agency that I was at. And then my agency owner like tapped me on the shoulder one day and said, "Hey, I really see a potential with you and I want you to become an agency owner." I was scared. And you guys know the story. I was super scared. I remember telling him, "I don't know what you're drinking last night, but you need to lay off of that. Like stop that." You hit his drink of choice was Maker's Mark. And I was like, "Todd, you got to stop that stuff because you're talking crazy to me." But eventually he convinced me and just really began training me. And I opened up my own agency, grew it to a $3 million book of business before selling it, and then moved from Houston, Texas to where I'm at now, which is Pennsylvania, where I just began consulting with different agencies, which led me to being the training specialist here at Jumpstart Go, lead coach here, and then the sales trainer within our own sales training, our sales team within our own internal side. So super excited. I live, eat, and breathe sales and building centers of influence. So I'm super excited to be here with you guys today and to just share some nuggets and to do it with Elle. So I'm super excited.
I'm super excited too. And Trista has just been a phenomenal asset to the Jumpstart Go team. She just celebrated a year with us. And truly, I would say like the support that our clients get inside of the programs, and especially with Producers Academy that launched back last September, the amount of training and results that have come out of both the Closers Click program and the Producers Academy has been incredible, largely due to the amount of heart, soul, thought, intention that you put in every single day and pouring into our clients. So super pumped for people to kind of get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain to see what it's like to learn from the amazing Trista Giancotti. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and tee it up for us. So today we are going to be talking about how to get off of the lead hamster wheel for good. So today we are going to talk about how you can create your own rock solid referral lead source that you can count on every single month. And so we're going to talk about how to build an army of referral partners to unlock a steady stream of great leads on that monthly basis. So not just a referral that's coming in here and a referral that's coming in there, but a true pipeline of referrals. Nice. And how you can build these centers of influence like a lead source that you can count on. And then how to find them. So these centers of influence, referral partners, where to find them, what to say to them, and what to send these leads. So you can actually steal our proven strategy. And Trista's going to talk about the strategy that she used to take her scratch independent PNC agency from 0 to 3 million using this strategy. And that's why I really wanted to have this conversation with her, bring her on this training today so that we could really dive into those strategies. And then why most Asians get referrals dead wrong and miss out on thousands of opportunities and great leads every single year. So we're going to show you how to solve this today and say goodbye to crummy leads and hello to more buyers. First, we're going to talk about how to get off of the lead hamster wheel and what does that actually mean.
Absolutely. I have to say really quick, I saw a comment by Mr. David Denning in there. His goal is to make us laugh. And then he's talking about getting off the hamster wheel and how he's dizzy. And all I could see is his hair flying in the air. So, David, you successfully succeeded. I was trying to not laugh. So I was having to bite the inside of my mouth here. So good job, David. So anyway, that hamster wheel, right? That's the thing. So many agents. And I remember when I got into insurance and got over to sales, and Todd literally said, okay, here's a binder. Here's your CRM. Go at it and just dial and dial and dial and dial. And he said a phrase to me, smile and dial. And I was like, okay, it can't be that bad, right? But quickly did I realize, and it didn't take me long, Elle, that smiling and dialing was not how I wanted to build an agency. Not how I wanted to spend 8 hours, 9 hours a day. And that's not why I got into insurance. I got into insurance to be able to help people. Yes, I understood that I was going to have to call people. Yes. But I realized very fast that I could sit there and how could I use my time the most effective way? Mm-hmm. Was that dialing 150 leads a day? Or was that really doing the things that you and I are going to talk about? And I think that we all know the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. That's what I think of with the smiling and dialing is us as agents on this hamster wheel, just constantly doing it. Either that, or if you ever been to a fair and you're in that fun circle and that thing is turning, right? And you're trying to go all the way around and you fall. That's exactly how I think about it with smile and dialing. You're doing good. You're climbing the well. And then you fall. And what does that lead to? It leads to burnout as an agent. And we didn't get into this for burnout. Nobody gets into a career that can be so amazing because we're helping so many families. Guys, let's be real. It's a lucrative industry as well. Yes, you make money in this industry. And we all got into it to be able to help families and to make good money. We didn't get into it for burnout. And so that hamster wheel is just doing that smile and dialing. And so I was excited the day that I was like, enough. I'm done doing smiling and dialing. I'm going to do something different. So I'm excited to be able to talk about that tonight.
Me too. And let us know in the comments, have you experienced the smiling and dialing burnout that Trista is talking about? I think too, when you first get started and it's kind of you're really, really excited and it's kind of you're just sort of feeding off of pure adrenaline. Mm-hmm. But then it's sort of the day over day over day over day, especially if you aren't being profitable in your business with your leads. So I think that's the kind of the next layer of it as well, of that this constant feeling of having to purchase more leads so that you can make more sales. And it's just for a lot of agents, and I know because I've also experienced this as well, it just feels like you're burning through money and not really making progress forward and actually building wealth because those commissions come in, but it's going towards covering lead cost or, it's going right back into marketing. So we know what the problem is. We've all experienced it on some level. And so let's move into actually talking about effective strategies for generating leads for $0 or for a very, very minimal cost comparatively to, purchasing leads for $10 a pop, $20 a pop, up to $50, $60 a pop, depending on the type of lead that we're talking about. So Trista, this is really where I think that the rubber meets the road. Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited to learn from you in the strategies that you use, what you call centers of influence, and how you really went about that, especially as a new agency owner, just getting started, scratch agency, building from the ground up. Take us back to that time and kind of being burnt out in the smiling and dialing, or even before maybe you open the
Mhm.
agency as a producer, the producing and feeling burnt out and smiling and dialing. I'd love to learn a little bit more about what really like you developed in that centers of influence to start generating leads and referrals, and what that process looked like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was with Allstate, like I said, I was sitting there and we had an expectation. My agency owner had an expectation. How many dials, outbound dials, how many quotes a day, how many sales a day, how many referrals. And that is what we were measured on. And you guys know I am super big on our KPIs or key performance indicators, because you don't
You
know
are.
where you're going unless you can have something to measure with, right? And so I'm super big, but I just remember sitting in my desk one day and just like, is this what insurance is about? Is just sitting here doing 150 calls, talking to 10 people, quoting 5 people in one sale. Like, is this, there has to be more than this. There has to be something more. And I remember I would meet with Todd every Wednesday, Elle, because I was also the marketing manager. So I would meet with him and we would review budgets and we would review things. And so I saw what our lead cost was. And at that time, not only did we have like Quote Wizard and EverQuote, but we were also spending massive amount of money on live transfers coming in. Like, I'm talking like $80 a pop sometimes on one lead, that if you didn't close it, I mean, I at that moment didn't feel the pain of the $80 because it wasn't my money that was being sent. But
Right.
I remember being in the office and just Todd, like, he was bald. So I remember him like pulling his imaginary hair out. And I was like, this isn't working. And I remember him having a conversation with me, and he said, he was the vice president at HP, like that's what he did. And he left that job because of the strain that was on with his family and always being out of the country and all that. And he said, I got into insurance because I didn't want burnout. And I was like, whoa, like, I don't know if you made the best decision. Because at that time, we were both feeling burnout. All of us were feeling it. We're trying to grow. We're a captive agency. And, we don't have the best rates at times. And
Yeah.
you're just smiling and dialing. And it was like leading to burnout, to where I was like, man, I don't want to protect another family because that means I have to call 200 people to get to that family. And so him and I just started talking. And then that's really where I was like, okay, if I'm going to be an agency owner one day, like, I don't want to run my business like this. I don't want my commission that I'm coming in and my profit to go back towards lead spend. Like, I was seeing how much money. And I knew that if I spent $80 on a lead, as an agency owner, I was going to feel that, right?
Right.
And so that's when I just began to say, I was, how can I get in front of the clients that I want to attract? Who is my ideal clientele? That's why I love that Closers Click helps you narrow down who exactly you're going to go after in your target market. Because yes, insurance, we can help anybody. But when you're more specific, then you can narrow that down. And so it's like, who's in front of, can I, instead of making 150 calls, if I can guarantee 5 quotes a day and one sell a day, can I do something a little different? Can I try it out? And he's like, what are you thinking? And I was like, I want to go out into the community and talk to realtors and real estates and doctors' offices and CPAs and attorneys. And he was like, where are you going with this? And I was like, because they're in front of the people that we want to sell insurance to.
Yes.
And he was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And I was like, I'm doing it. So I set aside one day of the week at first to really be out into the community, for people to know my name, for people to know Todd's name at the time. And that carried that into when I started my own agency. When I started my own agency, I cashed in my 401k, I cashed in everything. So I was like, I didn't have, a huge budget for marketing dollars. I mean, I was like, oh no, how am I going to do this? But what I did have was the time and the ability to go out and network and to communicate with the people and getting in front of realtors and mortgage lenders and all of those people to say, hey, let me add value to you. And in return, let me be able to help the clients that you're going to help. And so that's really where it birthed Centers of Influence. And people ask me, Trista, how did you grow your agency so fast? I didn't grow my $3 million agency by smiling and dialing. I grew it by the blueprints of Centers of Influence and referral partners. That's how I grew it so fast.
I love it, because this idea, as far as building referral partners, is one. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but I would say very few business owners, very few agency owners actually get this right, where they can depend on leads actually coming in from referrals. And so as far as like, they'll maybe join some networking events, or they'll join a BNI, or they'll join Rotary, but and this idea of like networking and getting your name out there, but don't actually see consistent lead flow or consistent referrals coming in from this. So Trista, I love that you brought us back to that like time and place, and really that this came out of that burnout of the smiling and dialing and being like, oh, there has to be a better way, because I think so many of us have experienced that. But let's talk a little bit about like actually making this a strategy for leads that you can count on. Because again, I think there's a disconnect of the idea and then it actually being carried through into activity and results that move the needle forward in a business. And I know that this happened to David and I when we first got started. We were spending so much time at these networking events, but having very few actually like revenue generating conversations and opportunities to close sales.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, we look at it, and I remember at first, it was trial by error for me at first. Like, okay, so as sitting there at Allstate, sitting there, even when I owned my own agency, was that I would see people coming in like Surf Pro and Service Masters and all these different people. They would come in and Safe Flight and, all these different companies that were like, hey, use us when your customer has a scratch in their window. And they would drop off these baskets of food and like their little notepads and their pens. And I'm just being honest, I'm very particular about the pens I write. They have to write a certain way or I throw them away. Like I know, sorry, but that's how I am. And so I just remember like looking at it and saying, okay, from this side of the view, when people came in like that and giving me their notepads, I'm not a notepad person like that. I have to have a binder and I'm really organizational. So what did I do with it? I ended up throwing that away, threw the pens away. And quite honestly, I was like, you didn't put my favorite candy in here, so I didn't even eat the candy. I didn't want to be that type of person that was coming in, reaching out to mortgage lenders, and bringing a little goodie bag and saying, hey, if you ever have a client that needs me, then reach out to me and hoping that they're going to remember me because I dropped off a pen or a paper or, a gift basket. It didn't work, right? It didn't make me stand out because they're getting that all the time.
Right.
So I was like, hey, I would reach out and I would talk to clients or people like that, mortgage lenders and stuff like, hey, I don't know if you heard, but here at our agency, we do things a little different. We actually work with realtors just like you every single day, and we help realtors like you. Well, I'm coming in with adding value to them immediately, like, hey, we're going to help you. So that's going to intrigue them and be like, okay, wait a minute. You're coming to me because you want to help me, not because you want something from me. And so then I would sit down with them. I would have conversation. I would treat them to coffee or lunch. And then I would tell them like, hey, we have a real estate program that helps real estate agents just like you. Or, hey, we have a mortgage program that helps mortgage lenders like you. And through conversations, I would begin to uncover pain points, which is what I teach all the time, is uncovering what are their pain points? What areas are they struggling with? What I found is that sometimes it was social media. I don't have enough time to post on social media. I don't have enough time to do this. You know what? I want to do more open houses. I just don't have the time to do it. And so through finding their pain points, I was like, that's exactly how me and my agency can help you. We can help you with your social media. We can help you with open houses. We can help you with a workshop that you want to do for first-time home buyers. And so I'm adding value to them. And the more I was adding value to them, they were like, whoa, listen, like, okay, so you're adding value. You're helping me. I want to help you. Here's everybody. And then the big thing is you have to teach your centers of influence how to refer you. You don't want to ever say, okay, so, Elle, I know that you're a mortgage lender and you said we're going to be centers of influence. We're going to partner together. But then when you have a closing on a house, oftentimes they just think, okay, well, here's Trista's business card, and then that's it. No, you have to teach your centers of influence how to refer you. So I would teach them, listen, don't just give out my business card, but actually pick up the phone call and let's do the introduction right away and get me connected with them, because I don't want that lead to have to make the call. I want to be in contact with that call, and I want to be in charge of that right away. And the sooner I can do it, the better chance I had to be able to close them and to be able to protect them the way that they need to be protected. And it was so key at that moment. So I had to teach them how to refer me, and I had to find their pain points and lead with value and not just drop off a goodie basket.
I love it. Oh man, I love that. There's so much gold there. I love what you talked about as far as the way that you're actually framing this and positioning it to your centers of influence. So approaching real estate agents and saying, hey, we have a program specifically for real estate agents that's going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're having this conversation with them of really discovery, right? Uncovering what it is that what their needs are, what pain points they're currently experiencing in their business. And then you're finding a solution on how you can help meet that need.
Yeah.
So smart and so different than just this idea of like, hey, this is like meeting somebody at a networking event. And it's kind of like, what do you do meeting somebody at a networking event? You shake hands. You exchange a little bit of like nice back and forth talk. You explain what you do in business. You exchange business cards, but then what happens after that? You maybe send a follow-up email, maybe if you're good. But then mostly what happens is those cards just get thrown into a shoebox or some sort of stuck in the bottom of the desk drawer or whatever, and there's no follow-through that happens. And if there is follow-through, it's weak follow-through. It's not a follow-through in such a way that actually brings a lot of value to referral partners. So I think that right there for me is just like the gold nugget in this of it's really structuring that conversation in a way of uncovering what it is that they're looking for, delivering what it is that they're looking for in that partnership. So I love that.
Well, I went to many Chamber of Commerce meetings, and I'm not knocking them because I'm a firm believer. But the only thing I ever got from them was a good lunch once a month. Let's be real.
Same. And a lot of time wasted, a lot of like, even I think for us, like a lot of coffees had, and conversations had, but just like no one had ever trained us, I guess, in actually how to have conversations in such a way that moved it towards doing business together. And I also really like what you said as far as having that open communication, structuring the conversation about how we can do business together and positioning it that way. And then, like you said, training them so it makes it easy for them to refer people over to you. I love that. So I would actually like to get into some of the specifics of some of your best centers of influence that you built and what were some of the specific things that you did to provide value to those partners.
Yeah. So I loved being in PNC. I loved mortgage lenders because they were fresh. Like, okay, they knew that I could get them the insurance because you can't close the loan without the insurance, without the evidence of insurance. And so I worked a lot with mortgage lenders, and I did like a lot of workshops. So I saw that I capitalized. We had a really good program and really good carriers when I had my own agency that really favored first-time homeowners. And so I would target first-time homeowners. And so we would do workshops once a month, and we would do it with a realtor and a mortgage lender and then myself. And so we would target on Facebook. If you want to buy your first home, you don't know where to start, come and join us. And so we would get people to come in, and about 15 to 20 people each month would come. And so the mortgage lender would talk about what do you have to do to get qualified and how do you have to do to get qualified. And if you couldn't qualify because of credit, then he could work on your credit and credit recovery. And then the realtor would get up and she would talk about, okay, now that you're pre-approved, then this is how we're going to help you find your house and walk you through that. And then I would get up and say, okay, now you found your dream home. Now it's my job to protect that dream home. And so through that, now I'm having the customers, guess what? We would get them approved. We would get them in their home, and then I would take care of their insurance. And so we would get leads that way. I worked with life. I worked a lot with doctors' offices, and I broke into the hospitals. Not broke in, but I broke in through the red tape of getting into the hospitals because me being a mom of 7 kids are something that's super, super important to me. And I wanted to make sure that just as my kids are protected, that other kids are protected as well. And so I would get in and they would have like goodie bags at the new pediatricians. Like, hey, for every new patient that you get, will you give them this goodie bag? And there was my information and a little gift from me. And so we would get moms that just gave birth at the hospitals that are on maternity leave. They would be calling me like, hey, I got this. It says to give you a call to talk to you about, X, Y, and Z. And
That's
so then I
smart.
would position it. And moms are at home on maternity leave. They're reading everything, especially first time home, our first time moms. They're reading everything. So I'm able to get into it that way and been able to close deals and just be a blessing to the doctors and to the nurses. And I would provide lunch for them once a month and just little things like that to be able to. So those were really, and then I keep breaking into things, but I broke into the Landlords Association. And I'll tell you this really quick. People always ask, like, how did you strike gold on this one? I struck gold on the Landlords Association, but it started by asking a question. A realtor called in, who are my clients doing business with? Who are my clients talking with? Who are they? And then that's really when it was like, I need to build centers of influence or referral partners. That's when the light bulb went off on me. And I was like, oh my gosh. I remember going into Todd's office and saying, like, and had a question. And I said, her name was Nancy. I said, Nancy, I don't know if you know this, but I said, I help realtors every single day, just like yourself. And she was like, oh, really? I was like, yeah. I said, I would love to treat you to coffee and talk to you more about it. I met with her with coffee, a 30-minute conversation. And she was like, I got to get you in front of somebody who is over the Landlords Association in Houston. He would love to be able to have you come in and teach other landlords on how to make sure they're properly protected. Would you do it? Absolutely. That turned into one of my biggest centers of influence that I ever had because he had 147 investment properties, 8 Hilton hotels, and he handed me his portfolio and said,
Wow.
insure me, make sure I'm properly protected. And then everyone else that was part of that used only me. And so, but it started from just simply asking them, hey, did you hear about our real estate program that we offer to help real estate agents just like you? It started because I opened my mouth and I asked a question.
I love that. Wow, that's incredible. And how many coffees or doors like do you think you had to knock on? Like how many coffee conversations did you have to get to that one conversation that really opened that door for you?
I had to get to a lot. It was a lot of realtors, a lot of people that didn't return my calls, a lot of times where they were like, oh, we already work with somebody, we're not interested. And I had to have the next mentality, like
Right.
next,
Right.
and or I couldn't get hung up on a no, right? Because every no was just one step closer to a yes. And I struck gold. I hit it.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible. And I'm going to add, I want to add here a couple of things on the social media side. And you mentioned you actually had somebody that reached out to you, a center of influence that needed help with social media, that you were actually able to help them with their social media, right?
I did, helping with posting and helping with different things like that. And I'm not an expert, guys, but I learned. I understood what her needs were and I made it happen. And she was like, I still have access to her Facebook today. Like, so it's always interesting. I was like, I could go in there, but it's just interesting. So
it's amazing. And on average, Trista, like how many leads per month would you typically generate from one of these centers of influence that you would establish?
I would average about 20 to 30 leads. And because I could definitely have the market, again, it's knowing your ideal clientele. So I'm not going to, if I don't have a good carrier for a certain something, I'm not going to go after that market, right? I was able to have the carriers for them and I was able to close them. And so I was consistently getting 20 to 30 a month from my centers of influence. And I didn't have to smile and dial. I made great money. My producers made great money. We lived well. We grew an agency to 3 million in a very short amount of time. So
yeah, I love that. And what would be your close rate that you would typically see on a referral versus like a lead that you would be smiling and dialing?
So on typical, a smile and dial lead, internet lead, there's like a 10 to 15% closing rate. An average industry was about 40 to 50% for a referral. So much higher. But with me, what I was seeing on the PNC side and then with the life through doing centers of influence, it's a much warmer lead. It's a much warmer handoff. I've taught my centers of influence how to refer me and how to talk about me and all of that. I had a 90% closing rate on leads that were coming in from centers of influence. I very rarely couldn't close one. And if I couldn't, it was because of something with underwriting or something that was out of my control.
Right. Man, that's amazing. So 20 to 30 additional leads per center of influence, and then closing at 90% or higher, even off of these warm referrals that are coming in. And it's so powerful, so effective. But just like anything else, it's a pipeline that you're building. It's like you built a pipeline of people that were potential conversations that you could have, and that you really knocked on those doors, had all those coffee conversations to get to the golden relationships that were really going to be your ones that you could count on to bring in those leads and referrals month over month. I know I wanted to add a little bit here on social media, because this is also, Trista developed this. She went out in her community, shook hands, and really did a lot of this face to face. But a lot of this strategy, the same exact idea of networking, building relationships, finding people of influence that deal with your ideal client, we can take those same strategies and apply them to social media. So really finding the people that are, maybe people that are influenced, they have influence with your local community, finding those realtor groups, those loan officer groups, people that work with homeowners. So like homeowners, for example, PNC, but also on the life side with mortgage protection as well. Basically, people have a house, they have a family, they need life insurance too. They need health insurance as well.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what line of insurance you are. Homeowners are a great demographic for any line of insurance. If they're young families, then they've got parents, and that's the senior market there. So we got, Medicare and final expense covered as well.
Long-term care, all that good stuff.
Yes. So there are so many business owners that deal with homeowners. Like that's a, great example. People that are moving into their houses, or maybe, they've been in their neighborhoods for a long time, but people that do house cleaning, handymans, roofing repair, the HVAC systems. I mean, just think about all of the different business owners, even outside of real estate loan officers, that deal with homeowners. And what's cool about this is that there are Facebook groups for all of these different people, all of these different types of businesses, local for your state. On Facebook, look up the groups for service-based businesses. If you're in Texas or California or Nevada or whatever, Georgia, whatever state you're in, Florida, where we are, start getting into your groups, your neighborhood groups, as well as your state groups for local service-based businesses. And there's so many people on social media that you can really start to intentionally connect with, build relationships with, and just like Trista said, move that into a conversation with them of what value can you provide to them? What needs can you meet inside of their business? So yes, it's probably David. I hear MFIA is the best group. Yes, MFIA is a fantastic group of networking with other insurance agents. Not every agent sells every single product there is out there. I can guarantee there's a referral partner inside of this group here for you. And so there's 31,000 insurance agents from across the country inside of this group. If you're PNC and you're not, really selling life, find a life partner, see what kind of business and collaboration you can do out of that. If you're life only, find a Medicare partner, a health partner, a PNC partner. Just within the insurance space, there's so much opportunity. And right here inside of this Facebook group, you can do that. So just wanted to add that as far as another layer of using social media. And again, what is so great about this is not a high expense thing for you to do. You're not paying for those leads. You're getting off of the phones of doing the smiling and dialing and being very intentional about building those relationships in your community and using social media as well.
And here's too, I'll say this too, when it comes to insurance, something that we don't often talk about is our retention, right? Our retention is huge, because I kind of look at it as like like a funnel, an upside down funnel, and your salespeople are putting all, or if it's you, you're putting all these new people in. Mm-hmm. But if your service is not really good, then you're losing it there as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. Retention matters. And so what I found, and through research as well, through talking to other insurance agents and doing a massive amount of research on this area, is that my people that came to me, like my clients that came to me through centers of influence, through referrals, their business was much more stickier. I didn't have to worry about them shopping and leaving me 6 months later, or them leaving me a year later upon renewal. They stuck with me. They were loyal with me. So my retention rate was so much better with those clients versus the leads that I'm just calling and smiling and dialing, because let's be honest, they're most of the time they filled out that form. Why? Because their rates went up and they're looking for another carrier. And they're going to do that in 6 months if your rates with them go up, or in a year. So it's so, so important. The stickiness in your retention is so much better as well.
I love that. Fantastic point, because it's really relational at that point. And when you have those referral, you have that transfer of trust that, they trust that business owner that they're already doing business with, that they're spending money likely in some way with that business owner. And that business owner is saying, hey, you need homeowners insurance. Trista is who we work with, and let me connect you with Trista. And that trust that business owner has already built up, it now transfers over to you. And that transfer continues through the life cycle of that client, so that once they become your client, they start working with you. That relationship is essentially kickstarted versus somebody that's filled out the form, just like you said, online, and they don't know who Trista Giancotti is. Like, they just needed something. They filled out a form. They don't have that same relationship that keeps them sticky and really, coming back month over month and year over year. So such a good point. Trista, what would you say what would be the number one thing for agents that are getting started with building centers of influence? What would be your number one piece of advice for them, and something that they could implement today in their business to start this process?
So something I did, I call it, and I teach this in TCC, but is what I call the wheel of influence, right? And I draw a circle on a piece of paper and I write my name in it. And then I put the spokes, which is the spokes of my will. And then those are the people, like realtors, doctor's office, whoever I want to reach out to that could be a potential centers of influence. So I put that there. And then from there, I list out 3 to 5 people in each category. And then I start to reach out. Now, guys, it is natural for us to say, okay, if I'm going to reach out to realtors, I'm going to reach out to the top 5 realtors in my area because they're on the billboards and their names are. Lots of times they already have somebody and you're wasting your time with them, right? I'm just going to be honest. They're not going to be the ones. I never did it. It never worked out for me. It may for you, and kudos to you. But I reached out to the people that were lots of times up and coming, the ones that truly did need the help, the ones that would really I would be able to bring a value to them, and in return, we'd be able to work together through collaborations and different fun things that we always did. And then I just had to start. So I started with that will, and I made it a goal, and then I would reach out to them, and I would set time in my calendar every single week to say, okay, this is centers of influence time. This is building my book this way. And I had to time block it. Nothing else got in that way. I was out into the community. I was making sure that I was doing the things where people would get to know who I was, so that when they would think insurance, they would think Trista. And that's the goal that you want to get to. And so I would encourage you, get a piece of paper, write that down, and then start going off of your spokes, building your spokes. And then from your spokes of who those centers of influences are going to be, who your referral partners are going to be, writing 3 to 5 names down, and then start implementing right away. We're reaching out to them, talking to them, getting to know them, having coffee with them, and then interviewing them. Every person that you meet with is not going to be a good fit. There's multiple times that I sat down with people and I left the conversation. I was like, I won't, no way. Why? Because they didn't have the same values. They didn't treat their customers the way that I would want to treat my clients. They didn't have the integrity. They didn't have the morals that I wanted. And I didn't want to mix that in. And so it wasn't a good fit. And it's okay. It's okay to walk away and say, nice meeting you. Great job. Have a great business. Best of luck. It's just not going to fit for us, because you want people that are going to have the same vision and align with you. And so you're kind of essentially interviewing them without really telling them that you're interviewing them, to see if they're going to work for you.
Sure. I love that. So many good steps. So wheel of influence, start there and then start having those conversations and really structure it like a real interview. I love that. And what would you say would be the biggest mistake that agents make when they're getting started with this process?
I would say the lack of consistency and then them stopping too early. Like, honestly, consistency is key. You got to stay in the forefront of their mind. You got to stay in front of them. You have to, it's not just a, hey, I'm your person. Reach out to me if you need it. Like, no, it's having several touch points. You have to treat your centers of influence just like they're your clients, where you
Mm-hmm.
have several touch points with them, making sure they're okay, touching point and seeing, hey, how can I serve you? How do I need, something that I asked this, and it's something because it's funny because my husband and I do marriage coaching, and we do this and we ask each other every single morning. My husband and I ask each other this question: what do you need from me today? It's the same thing that I asked my centers of influence when I would meet with them. I would send them text messages or call them at least once a week. Have a touch point where I would treat them to coffee or dinner at least once a month. And so I would ask them, hey, what do you need from me this week? How can I serve you this week? Again, it's taking it off of me, and putting it onto them to add value to them. And so it takes time. People think that, okay, I'm just going to reach out to 10 realtors this week and they're going to start sending me leads. It's not going to happen. Okay.
Right.
I still had to smile and dial until I got to the point where I was consistently getting those leads. And so people stop too early. Oftentimes people stop right before that, like right before. And it's like, keep going, just one more step. And so consistency is always going to pay off. Being persistent, that's always going to pay off. And then not stopping too early, like just keep going. And I think when you do those things, like you're going to see this, I know you will see the success of building a solid centers of influence for your agency and your business.
I love that. I love, Trista, that you said consistency, because that's across the board. 1% better every day, being consistent, showing up for those relationships, those center of influence relationships, social media, being consistent there, and finding people through social media can be a very, very powerful tool.